Good afternoon and welcome to Post-Secondary Individual Transition Plans Assessment, Dreaming of the Future. I'm Jennifer Connolly, Santa Barbara County SELPA Coordinator. Thank you for being here with us today. Today we're going to talk about 4 different topics. First, Post-Secondary Transition Plan Wheel. Secondly, transition assessments. Third, we will have a brief activity related to assessments. And then fourth, I will share some resources that may be helpful to you in planning for individual transition plans. First, I'd like to share with you a wonderful video emphasizing the importance of planning ahead and being hopeful for future dreams.
Well, transitioning to life after high school is tough enough, and it can be even more challenging for students with disabilities. But for those families, it's one thing a community council in La Crosse said they don't have to do alone. It's planning for the inevitable.
At the age of 17, 18, do they really know what they want to do?
Life after graduation. But for Michelle Mahalovic and her son Jordan, diagnosed with autism, that planning definitely has some challenges.
Were you scared because you don't know what the future holds?
Yeah.
Were you scared because you know you're a little bit different than everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
But what has mom always told you?
You're the best.
Do the best you can.
Do you make your own egg sandwiches?
Yeah.
You're a good chef.
And for Teresa Hulls and her son Aaron, born with Down syndrome, it's planning that needs to start early.
Transition came when I knew that he was going to be going from a child to an adult. And so I started seeking out the information that I needed for him to have and to have the resources available for him, because once Aaron turns 18, he is considered an adult.
But for both of these families, every day has its struggles and its pleasant surprises. And it's no different when it comes to planning for their child's future. Both moms say it's one thing they don't have to do alone.
I think that when you first are thinking about what is my child going to do once they turn 18 and they're into the adult world, it's scary. What's going to happen next? What's going to be out there for my child?
Both families are taking advantage of help from the La Crosse County Transition Advisory Council with things like independent living, personal counseling, and employment resources in the community to prepare for when their sons hit that milestone age of 18.
You start making plans for your kids on what they want to do.
It's not necessarily scary. I think that there's just more planning that you have to do.
That way, both moms can rest assured their sons will live healthy and fulfilling lives.
Somebody asked me once if I could change my kid, and I would never change him. God gave him to me this way for a reason.
It's a diagnosis nobody wants to hear until you have it. And once you realize there's so much beauty and in these special needs people, you just do live your life like you normally would. It's no different.
The La Crosse County Transitional Advisory Council is having a conference for families.
So it's crucially important to think early on about transition and how to plan for our students as they go through the years of school. It is never too early to start thinking about what life will be like after high school. So we like to share with you the individual transition planning transition cycle. So we have this amazing visual that shows a step-by-step process of how to plan an appropriate transition plan for our students throughout the years of age 16 to 22 if a young adult, decides to stay in high school till they're 22. So step 1, if you notice at the top, is assessment. So first and foremost, we want to really think about what the young person's hopes and dreams are, and really consider the areas of education, training, employment, and independent living in the assessments that we give to our young adults. Step 2, we're going to consider post-secondary goals. Those goals are aligned with the assessments that are given, and then the goals will be worked on each year, hopefully leading to a wonderful plan towards graduation. Once again, the goals would be in training and education, employment, and then independent living. Step 3, we have annual goals. So those annual goals and those post-secondary goals are very similar, but there are some differences. So really thinking about, first off, what would the student need for education, employment, and independent living, and really tease out areas of interest that will promote independence as the student ages out of our high schools and on to adult life. Step 4 are the activities and community experiences. So considering what activities would support the post-secondary and annual goals. Many activities would be obviously in the community or in the community within the high school campus or within the community at large where the student lives. Step 5 are the transition services. So considering what agencies would be supportive of the student for services towards adult life and adult living and employment. So looking at, again, linking those annual and post-secondary goals, thinking about how often these services need to take place, where these services need to take place, who would be responsible for linking the student with the service, and then looking once again at education, employment, and independent living within those transition services. Finally, step 6 would be graduation requirements. So this area would be what courses of study, what is the age of majority if the student is 18 or they're beyond 18, and then what outside agencies or supports do we need to put in place to help the student complete graduation requirements if they choose to graduate at age 18 or if they choose to graduate at age 22. So once again, our first step in the process of our wheel of transition would be assessment. Assessments are required by Individuals with Disabilities Education Act to highlight the areas of need for our students. Assessments help the IEP team understand what the student needs, areas that the student is good at or their interests, what the student would like to do after high school and maybe during high school, what they want to do related to work, education, living, and participation in the community. And then it also informs decisions for an IEP team around supports and services. So it really teases out what areas are needed for support and how do we plan way in advance for the student for when they graduate and move on from high school into the adult world. Also considering assessments are, when we think about an assessment, we think about what are the students' present levels, where is the student now, and where do we want them to be when they are finished with our high school time. We want to really create goals that drive services and supports for the students so that they can become wonderful members of our communities upon graduation from high school. Obviously, there's many opportunities and many options for assessments. Some cost money, some are free. I will be sharing those, some examples in a few minutes. But two particular areas to look at. The California Career Zone is one area that you can see this link here on this slide that shares information related to assessments and inventories. And then the Career Index Plus, which is a wonderful resource as well that shares some information related to assessment. Down at the bottom, I'd love for you to use this link, the Transition Planning, the Basics. Take a look at that booklet. That is from our California, our California, sorry, I'm looking at it, Transition Alliance website. This booklet can be downloaded for free, and it's a wealth of information about post-secondary transition and supports with multiple resources and links to great websites. So keep that book nearby and handy as you are talking about post-secondary transition. So when we think about assessments, we think about our grade level. So our student at ninth grade is approximately age 15, 16 years of age, depending on their birth date. And so we look at the different grades and what types of things we could focus on for each grade level. So in ninth grade, we're going to really look at pre-employment skills. So you will see in a minute in our Padlets, there's some pre-employment skill assessments that I will highlight in a few minutes. In 10th grade, we're looking at generally personal strengths. So we might want to do a type of inventory or interest inventory related to a values assessment. What does a student want to do upon graduation? Many of these are checklists. Many of these are easy things to fill out. They can be tailored to all student abilities, and they're just really helpful in helping the student and the family think about what the student values the most and what the student's hopes and dreams are for their future. In 11th grade, once again, we give more interest inventories on self-advocacy, thinking about, could the student live on their own? Are they in need of extra supports? And then informal aptitude assessments. Some of those could consist of strengths or interests related to specific topics in employment, in training, and so forth. So many of these assessments, again, are free. There's many out there on websites and throughout that are helpful during this age group. And then in 12th grade, we have what we call a reality check. We look at what we've done, we review, we repeat prior assessments as needed, and we think, do we need to make some adjustments in our post-secondary transition plan to accommodate the changing interests of the student. And then at this point, we are hopefully planning for next steps for when the student graduates or decides to move on from high school into the adult community within the area that the student lives. This page should look very familiar to all of you. This is the post-secondary transition plan in Cyrus. We are going to go through this piece in particular of the plan right now, and then in future trainings, we will go through the additional pages of the post-secondary individual transition plan. So you will notice on the left is a question that's asked, age-appropriate transition assessments instruments were used. Hopefully your answer is always going to be yes, because you are always going to be assessing a student for information related to what they want to do after they graduate and become an adult. So in this box, you're going to complete an assessment annually in all 3 post-secondary areas. So those areas are employment, post-secondary independent living, and then education and training. You're going to include in this box the name of the assessment used, the month it was given, and just a brief summary of the results. So for instance, assessment blah blah was given November 2023. Assessment results indicated student would like to live in an apartment on their own, would like to attend the city college for work in culinary, and would like to eventually get a job at a local restaurant. So the assessment indicated an interest in those areas. Also, a few examples of assessments could be interviews. So these assessments could be just a very brief question and answer interview from a staff person to the student. They could be, again, inventories where the student checks yeses and nos or provides brief information based from questions. And then there could be also a questionnaire. These are some examples of assessments that could be available, that could be put in this particular box. Also, you'll see remember that the gap between the results of the transition assessments and the student's area of interest is based on post-secondary goals. So shortly saying, you really want to make sure that those goals that you write, post-secondary and then annual, are tied in with the results of the assessment that you gave and the interests of the student from that assessment. So we're going to do a little activity. So this activity would be done in groups. So I'm going to show you first our transition assessments Padlet. You will see it is linked in this number 2 right here. We're going to explore this Padlet for a few minutes, and then we're going to complete the Jamboard of assigned the assessment that each of us looked at. So each of you are going to be assigned an area to take a look at, and then we're going to fill out some questions related to the assessment that was explored. All right, so I'm going to go back to our Padlet and pull that up right now. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with a Padlet is a virtual bulletin board of information that is shared out by a link, and you'll see the link up here. The Padlet is something that has documents that can be downloaded by clicking on the 3 little dots right here, or it has links to websites that can be shared as well. So in order to travel through the Padlet, there is a toolbar down at the bottom that allows the Padlet to move from right to left. And then there also is a toolbar that allows the Padlet to move from top to bottom. So our Padlet today is organized by mild to moderate support needs students in employment, educational or training, and independent living assessments. And then it is also organized by extensive support needs, employment, education or training, and independent living. There's a couple additional items on here that might be of interest. We have comprehensive assessments and exploration sites. So these sites are resources for you to take a look at, in particular, the California Career Zone, My Next Move, talking about independent living, Edge Factor, which discusses workforce, the Career Index Plus, and you can see at the bottom here, there is information about each website, talking about if it's free or if it's a fee to be on that website. And then once again, if we scroll all the way to the beginning of our Padlet, you will see getting started questionnaires, such as pre-IEP questionnaires, transition assessment student and parent information interview form, parent transition survey. These are very, very helpful for parents to give information on where they see their student transitioning when their student ages out of high school. Some of these are in Spanish as well, so there's the Spanish version right below it. Self-determination scale student form, and then student questionnaire grade 6 through 12. And I know you think, wow, grade 6, but honestly, it is never too early to start thinking about post-secondary transition. And at middle school is a great time to start gathering and thinking about the students' hopes and dreams for employment, education, and independent living. Knowing our students might not have the answers right away, but at least they can start thinking about it. So for a moment, we're going to explore a few of these. I'm going to explore in particular this first one, the RIA. So I'm going to click on the document. It opens up the document. You can see on the right the 3 little dots, which allow you to click. And there's an item that says downloadable. Oh, this is a link actually to this document. So I will show you how to download it later. But you can see the RIA SEC test, very simple test. I like to work on cars. If you agree with the statement, you fill in the circle. If you don't, you don't. I like to work on puzzles. You fill in the circle or you don't. I'm good at working independently. I like to work in teams. And so the student fills this out, either fills in the bubble or does not. And then at the bottom, you tally up how many bubbles are filled out in each section. So the R is the realistic. So thinking about realistically, is this a good thing for the student? Could the student do this? Investigative, they're thinking about it. It's something they're investigating. Artistic, is this an artistic trait that the student has? Is this a social trait that the student has? Are they enterprising? Are they creative and thinking about creating something on their own? And then conventional, is this something that we can look for in many other areas of support? So this document, obviously very easy to complete. And then once all of these rubrics are filled out, you have a little code. And then it gives some examples of the results. So on the results, it shows these people, for realistic, are good at mechanical or athletic jobs. Good college majors for realistic people are, and then it gives a number of opportunities here to think about for a possible college major. Investigative, you can see that these people like to watch, learn, and analyze and solve problems. So it gives you some ideas of college majors or areas to investigate for classes and things at a college level. Artistic, obviously, they're creative people. So you can see here it gives a number of possible jobs or opportunities for additional training in majors that provide work with artistic type people. Scrolling up, social shows trades or jobs that provide a lot of social opportunities for students. So you can see the college majors located here for social people, education being one of them. Enterprising, this is for people who like to work with others and enjoy persuading and performing. So lots of different opportunities there for college majors as well. And then conventional, these are for detail-oriented, organized, and people that like to work with data. So very much somebody who works with data, works with reporting, likes to work with numbers, the mathematical people. So this is a great scale, very simple, but great scale to use to support a student who may be wondering, okay, I know I want to go to college, but I don't know what I want to do for a major. So this really targets where the student's strengths and interests are, and could be very helpful in deciding a major in college. Educational training and support for mild to moderate support needs students. We're going to look at this particular document here. And again, I'm just choosing the first one. There are more right below each one of these. So the SITE instrument is formulated out of Kansas. And this is an information gathering type instrument that supports, again, exploration on a lot of different skills for a student. So you'll see the narrative just explaining the SITE learning styles is above. And then as you scroll down through the document, you'll see a number of major learning styles. So how the student may learn can really determine some sort of an employment opportunity for the student's future. So on the left is the learning style, and then on the right is the teaching techniques. So as we scroll on down, visual numerical, auditory language, auditory numerical, visual kinesthetic and auditory, somebody that needs a combination of stimuli, social individual, social group. So that going back to that social individual, I want you to take a look. This student gets more done alone. So honestly, looking at that, I thought, ooh, social individual, they're very social. They like to be around people. Not necessarily. This person might work better on their own. But the social group obviously strives to have more people within their arena. They need to have people around them when they're working. Expressive oral, expressiveness written, and then it goes into a beautiful rating scale where the student would indicate most like me to least like me. So example, written assignments are easy for me. If a student has trouble with written assignments, they would circle the 1 or 2. If they are really good at following written directions, they would circle the 3 or the 4. I learn best when I study alone. Some of our students need to have people around them. They need to have that social interaction. Some need to have absolute quiet. So again, the student would rate themselves 4 through 1, depending on how their learning goes, either with others or by themselves. And then as you scroll on down, you'll see lots of questions on this inventory, awful lot of questions. But in the end, the adult scores them looking at the numbers. So they tally up all the numbers, and you'll see the total of the numbers are ×2. So you get a total score here. And then it shows what type of a learner the student is. And honestly, what a great thing to know when thinking about a college major, thinking about an employment situation, thinking about the skills a student may have, what type of a job would be a good job for that kind of a learner. So again, a great tool, free tool, mind you, everything on this Padlet is free to use for our mild to moderate support needs in education and training. Independent living skills, once again, I want to call out that you'll see this toolbar here. There are a number of other activities in each of these areas to take a look at your leisure. Mild to moderate support needs, independent living. You will see here, this is just a very brief checklist, very simple, things I can do already, things that need practice. I want to start these things, or I've already started these things. So in the kitchen, laundry, with family, housekeeping, gardening, emergency, personal skills, healthcare skills, community skills, leisure, skills for the future, for future education, vocational, and living arrangements. So in this, the student would just put a little check mark or an X next to each one. Can the student make the bed and change the bed? Yes, I can do this already. Or I need a little practice in this. I can't do it perfectly. Or maybe it's already accomplished. It's something that I can do already. So accomplished and can do already, obviously those are kind of one and the same. But very simple thing to take a look at. And then in the end, you would, of course, take a look at the things, sorry, I'm making you dizzy here. You would take a look at the things that would need practice, and those areas could become post-secondary goals or transition goals. In looking at our extensive support needs students in employment, we have multiple documents from Unique Learning Systems. Many of you may be using this in your classrooms with your students. There's a lot of information that Unique Learning Systems provides. A lot of it very simple for our students. Might take a staff member to support gathering the information from a student. But you can see here this rubric has prompting as the scoring area. So for instance, stays on task for an adequate amount of time to complete a given work assignment. Can they do that without an adult prompting them? Do they need a little bit of support? Do they need somebody sitting next to them and giving them complete support? Or is this just something that they can't do at all? So that would be the no response. And then you would total up. So if I did select 3, I would put a 3 right here on the total score. And then for each of these, you would total up the score and then divide it by, I believe, 18. So you can see lots of information here. And then the rubric results. shows that average as proficient, progressing, participating, or review and revise. So it takes those scores and it gives you information where you may want to target some skills with the student. So really, really helpful information. Additionally, you'll see employability. I work hard at school. The student could check these boxes if the student is able to write. I follow directions from the teacher, sometimes checking that, and then so forth. And then once again, that is totaled, and it would highlight areas of skill. Work environment preferences. Do you prefer clean or dirty? Inside or outside? Loud or quiet? Again, simple check boxes or coloring in the circles. Many people, few people, alone. Lifting or no lifting. Many of our jobs require lifting. Sitting or standing. Staying in place. And then again, additional questions. I love the visuals on this assessment. Very, very, very helpful to students. And you can see I'm going to pause and leave it at this, but lots of information from Unique Learning Systems related to how do I learn best, with beautiful visuals that hopefully students can understand and check off to support their learning styles and their employment. On educational or training, again, I sound like I am a spokesperson for Unique Learning Systems. I just happen to really like their platform. But this one, again, lots of visuals, lots of checkboxes and questions related to the student and how they are able to educationally work and the training that they have. And then under each area of information, there's an area of how you gather the assessment results. Unique Learning Systems, I do have to share, there is a purchase price for this. So if you do not have this program, it may be something that your district could support a purchase for. But again, great information to support our extensive support needs students. You'll see here, there's a classroom learning environment checklist, very simple lines that students and staff can use together to check off what the student appreciates in a learning environment. And this one is actually really helpful for our students with autism. And then additional information as you scroll down from different states regarding educational or training assessments. These are our favorites. In working with teams to create this Padlet, we had so many assessments. Again, many of them cost money. The ones we are providing today are free. For extensive support needs independent living, I'd like to show you this first one here. This is actually a Word document, so you can select your 3 little dots and you can download this attachment right here. But this one, again, is just a wonderful checklist, completes independently, completes with a prompt, something that is emerging that maybe the student cannot do it yet, but they're working on it. And then the staff initials that they attested to this checklist. So looking both ways before crossing the street, pushes crosswalk indicator. A lot of this, this first section is transportation and mobility. And then we get into communication, phone skills, money and budgeting skills, calculator skills, vocational skills, and self-advocacy skills. Lots of great information. And then there's an area here that allows the examiner to enter information, take some notes if need be. So this is a great tool for independent living for our extensive support needs students. You will see more unique learning systems here, as well as a life skill inventory assessment tool. Lots of good information. This self-care abilities listing, again, another wonderful checklist. So all of these are accessible to you to use at your leisure. I don't want you to forget to take a look at this California Career Zone. This information is fabulous. It really, really gives a lot of great information related to exploring careers. You do have to create a little account, but I don't believe it's too costly for a yearly subscription. My next move. I'm sorry, it's taking a minute to load. There it is. This is online help. So you can see there's a link here and then some information to career counselors in case you want to talk to somebody about what to do and how to get support. And then the Edge Factor. Really beautiful. Lots of bright colors. Story-driven career and workforce development solutions. Again, this one will require you to have a login. I don't think the cost is too expensive, but it does give you a number of tools and information to take a look at your leisure. The Career Index Plus. This one also requires entering an email and then registering. So again, these I kind of stay away from. It's hard to have so many logins and things with these websites, but just some tools and things in case you have an interest. So scrolling all the way back to the beginning, getting started questionnaires. Again, some great questionnaires, in particular, this pre-IEP questionnaire. Is your parent coming to the meeting? Do you know if your parents have any concerns? What do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? So some of our students, they love being on computers. Maybe they're more athletic. And so maybe looking into jobs related to computers or athletics. What are your strengths outside of academics? Maybe they're artistic and they love to paint. What are your academic strengths? Maybe they're theatrical. What are your academic weaknesses? Mine would definitely be math. And then, do you have any medical concerns? Very simple questions, yes or no. Do you take any medication? This is something just so important for our students to consider filling out, because it really maps out where the student is interested in doing and what the student could do in the next few years at high school. And you can see here, this one is actually from our amazing partners in Santa Maria. That can easily be changed to Santa Barbara or Goleta or Carpinteria or Lompoc. But, you know, independent living, where do you live? Do you have a California ID? Are you interested in getting a driver's license? Do you do your own banking? All these things are things to consider in the high school years towards post-secondary transition. In order to click out, once again, you're going to that little X there. So this transition assessment is in your presentation located right here, this link. And I've just given you a little tour of that assessment. We're going to skip through our Jamboard activity, but if you have an interest in doing so, you would take your phone and scan it to this QR code, or you could select that Jamboard activity, which has several questions about the transition assessment that you explored, and something to give us some feedback as to what you liked about the resources in the Padlet. So education is a dress rehearsal for life that is one's to lead. I love this quote because honestly, we are always in a dress rehearsal. We're always thinking about what our next steps are as far as our life goes, with education, with employment, with life as we age and get older. So it's always a dress rehearsal that is one's personal life to lead. Revisiting our wheel, I want to show a couple additional items that may be of help. I did mention these already in the Padlet that I shared with you today. So a couple resources: the California Career Resource Network, you'll see that link there. Life Skills Inventory, this Casey's lifeskills.org, great resource for support with life skill inventories. You'll see Transition Healthcare Checklist, that National Career Information Resources, ONET, a national data bank of career information. Again, some of these do require a login, and they may have a little fee in order to join or to look at their website, but just some great tools for you to explore. Additional California Transition Alliance. I shared earlier that amazing book that I will share in a minute, that gives such rich information related to transition, and then also information related to employment, post-secondary education, and adult living. Resources for individuals with ID, intellectual disability, and developmental disabilities, Transition Coalition, and then the Consumer Corner, two other options there. Assessment using Discovery Method, which really highlights goals, dreams, assets, and challenges for a student. You can see there's the link there. And then classroom activities and curriculum resources. Again, I did speak about unique learning systems, but there's a few others there to look at your leisure. The resources I've shared today, you will see we have two amazing resources provided by some hard work from our partners at Santa Maria Joint Union High School District. One is a mild to moderate quick desk reference guide, and the other is an extensive support needs quick desk reference guide. If you select either one of these, we will be changing the title. This one says my moderate to severe. Obviously, this is our old way of calling our students of labeling our students with disabilities. It's now extensive support needs. So this will be changed, this title here. But I want to highlight this amazing guide. It looks very similar for our mild to moderate students and our extensive support needs students, with a few exceptions. The first page is the wheel that I have reviewed with you today. And then the guide goes step by step through the post-secondary individual transition plan. Really, really, really helpful. So you will see arrows and then information related to how to complete the ITP in every single box. Everything in these boxes are examples there are things that you could use for this particular area. Please do not duplicate what you see in these boxes just to fill the box. Please really be mindful of what you write on this plan. And of course, involve the student in creating this plan together with the ed specialists. This next page is the student's voice. So what do they want to do upon completion of school? So that could be at age 18 or that could be at age 22. So in each area, this is the education or training. So you see there's multiple examples written down below here, just to get your juices going and your thoughts going as to what they could do. And then there is a post-secondary goal associated with that interest, a transition service, frequency, meaning how often are you going to be working on this? There is an annual goal linked to this. There are people responsible. There could be more than one. So clearly it will be the case manager, but we also want to have our student there, and then maybe a designated instructional service or a related service provider would also be included in this. But it could just be the student and the case manager. Obviously, we have a start date and an end date, and then a community experience. So thinking about community experiences, maybe they are going to attend a college fair or they're going to tour a college campus. These are some examples of things that could be put in this box. Once again, these are all examples. It's not one for you to choose what's written here. It's one for you just to think about in the conversations you have with the student when filling out this form. The second page, the employment, once again, the student's voice. We are using the student's voice. We're talking to the student about what they hope to do as far as employment goes. And then once again, all of the corresponding boxes with examples and suggestions of how to fill out each portion of this form. And then finally, the goal, independent living. And so once again, in the student's voice, do they want to live on their own? Do they want to live with others? Do they want to live at home? And of course, examples of things that could support independent living. Do they need to learn how to balance a checkbook? Do they need to learn time management or cooking? Different activities, and then of course, community experiences that correspond with those activities. Our final page of our ITP talks about the transfer of rights. So thinking about at age 17, this is when you have that conversation with the parent and the student that the student is about to turn 18 and they will be responsible for educational decisions from 18 on. So this requires a lot of thinking and planning and discussions. There's a lot of information on the age of majority. You can see on this box, lots of good detail on how to have these conversations with parents and students. And then the next box, educational rights, with 3 boxes to select, one of 3 boxes to select. And then finally, the adult agencies, have they come to the meeting, or are you providing paperwork related to the adult agency that may help the family and the student with next steps after graduation or completion of high school? And then finally at the bottom, the diploma, the certificate of completion. And then of course we will have an area here that will be updated that says alternative pathway to diploma, which is a new mandate that is continuing to be discussed in our county. as to how we will approach the alternative pathway to a diploma. On the transition regulations, you can see we have neatly shared which boxes you're going to check. Most of this is going to be a yes, with exception for that number 8. That number 8 is an or to this IEP. You see the or word a lot. So don't just check yes, read the question and really make sure that that information is correct. So thinking about that number 8, if you mark no, you're going to really be in trouble compliance-wise because you're not abiding by transition regulations. So you really need to have this conversation, really think hard about how you check those boxes and have that dialogue within the meeting. Furthering below, you'll see transition codes. There's many of them related to the description of services, just there for your information. And then finally, our courses of study for certificate of completion. This will eventually change due to the alternate pathway to diploma. And then additional CDE codes related to some of the activities. So the mild to moderate quick DES reference guide is not much different, but it is geared to our more mild to moderate support needs students. 2, again, amazing guides provided by our partners at Santa Maria Joint Union High School District. And again, they will be updated as the new regulations and guidelines come into play. This second resource here is that transition guide from the California Transition Alliance. This is something, if you go on their website, you can download it for free. And it's an amazing booklet supporting transition. This is the newest version, July 2023, talking about the basics, giving a lot of references and resources of where to go for support, different publications, supports with terminology, some mandates there, and then some great information regarding writing transition goals. Additionally, there's a lot of great statistics, as you can see here: high school graduation with a diploma, employment, and all sorts of great information related to statistics, person-centered planning, inclusive practices, and so on. A great resource to have next to you as you're thinking about transition planning for students, and as you're having conversations with parents and students for next steps for graduation and beyond. Finally, the Transition Padlet. This is the resource that I showed you earlier. This is linked here for your support. You are welcome to download and use any of those free documents. Again, some of them are not free. If you do not have unique learning systems, those are just examples, but you would probably want to purchase the entire curriculum content to access all of their information. So with that, I want to say thank you for coming today. Hopefully this experience was helpful to you, and you will see my name, Jennifer Connolly, and my email address here. I'm here to answer any questions and support you in any way for post-secondary transition. Thank you for coming.